In the middle of the night, a series of digital breadcrumbs just went dark. And that was the start of one of the most baffling missing person cases in recent memory, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
And that right there, that's the promise her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, made to her mom and to the world. It's a promise that took a private family's worst nightmare and thrust it right into the national spotlight, kicking off this massive, desperate search.
So how does a totally normal Saturday night just completely unravel into a federal investigation? Well, it all starts with silence. Nancy gets home, and then one by one, the things connecting her to the digital world start blinking out. First, her doorbell camera goes offline at 1:47 a.m. Then, not even an hour later, her pacemaker app disconnects. By the time her family realizes she didn't make it to church, that silence, it's become terrifying. That's when the alarm gets raised.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. This story doesn't start with some big, dramatic event. It starts with a quiet, creeping sense of dread. When Nancy's family, worried because she missed church, showed up at her house, what they found wasn't just an empty home. Now, it was a scene filled with these deeply unsettling clues. Just look at what was still there. We're not talking about random stuff. These are an 84-year-old's lifelines. Her car, her phone, her wallet. And maybe most importantly, her essential medication. I mean, for a woman who has trouble getting around, leaving all this behind, that's not a choice. The scene basically screamed that she did not leave on her own.
So because of everything they found at the house, this case just did a complete 180 in an instant. The idea that maybe a confused elderly woman had just wandered off, that got thrown right out the window. This was now being treated as exactly what it looked like, a violent abduction.
And you know, law enforcement didn't beat around the bush at all. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos went public right away and just said it plainly. And that decision, it was absolutely crucial. It framed the entire investigation from day one, not as a search for a missing person, but as a rescue mission.
And here's why they were so sure. They found signs that someone had broken in. The doorbell camera, disabled. And the most chilling part, they found bloodstains right near the door. DNA testing later confirmed it belonged to Nancy. Every single piece of evidence wasn't just pointing to an abduction. It was pointing to a violent, planned-out attack.
So you have to think, right? The victim is the mother of a really famous TV anchor. The first thing that jumps to everyone's mind is a kidnapping for ransom. It seems like the only logical explanation. But as investigators were about to find out, absolutely nothing about this case was logical.
Instead of getting one clear demand, it was just this chaotic storm of ransom notes. They were popping up at different media outlets, demanding millions in Bitcoin, and get this, they had details that hadn't even been released to the public. But here's the thing, there was no clear way to actually contact these supposed kidnappers, and on top of it all, you had imposters trying to cash in. It was just a complete and dangerous mess. So, stuck in the middle of all this chaos, fake demands, public rumors, the family realized they had to step in and take charge. They went straight to social media to try and cut through all that noise, hoping they could reach the only person who mattered, whoever had their mother. And their pleas were just heartbreaking, but they were also incredibly smart. Listen to that phrase, without a doubt. That is so key. It shows this chillingly modern awareness. We live in an age of AI and deepfakes, right? They knew a simple photo or a voice recording could be faked. They were demanding real, solid proof of life. And they kept hammering home just how urgent this was. This wasn't just about a hostage, it was about a patient. Nancy needed her daily medication for a chronic heart condition, so every single hour that passed without it was like a ticking clock, putting her life in more and more danger.
For days, the investigation was just stuck, mired in confusion. And then they got a breakthrough. And it came from the most unlikely place. Remember that disabled doorbell camera? The one that looked like a total dead end? Well, it was about to reveal the single most important clue in the entire case.
So you're probably wondering, how do you get video from a camera that's been busted? Well, the FBI's cyber team is pretty amazing. They worked with the company that made the camera to pull the data not from the device itself, but from the cloud back-end systems. What they recovered was like a digital ghost, the very last fleeting moments the camera recorded before it went dark. And what that footage showed was just terrifying. It's this grainy black and white video of a figure in a mask, totally methodical and armed. You see them walk up to the door, raise a gloved hand, and then calmly grab a plant from the garden to cover up the lens.
For the very first time, investigators weren't just chasing shadows anymore. They had an actual image of their suspect.
And that one piece of footage, as grainy as it was, allowed the FBI to build a real profile. Yeah, the face was hidden, but now they had specifics. A male, somewhere around 5'9 to 5'10", average build, and carrying a very specific backpack, a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack. All of a sudden, the entire country had something concrete to be on the lookout for.
So it felt like this was it, right? The moment the case was going to break wide open. They had video, they had a suspect description, and they had massive public attention. And yet, nothing. The trail just went cold again. And into that empty space, where the facts should have been, online speculation just came rushing in. A lot of the online chatter, the rumors, they really zeroed in on Nancy's son-in-law. But Sheriff Nanos came out and forcefully shut that down. He said the family was 100% cooperative and basically warned people to stop making baseless accusations. It turned into this clear battle between wild online theories and the actual official facts of the case.
And the public response was just massive. Over 18,000 tips flooded into law enforcement. Now, that's an incredible show of support, for sure, but it also creates a whole new problem. How do you find the one crucial lead that's buried in a literal mountain of information?
So to help find that needle in the haystack, the FBI has put up a pretty significant reward, $100,000 for any information that can finally break this case open, either by leading them to Nancy or to an arrest.
And that's where we are today. We have this chilling video of a suspect. We have an army of federal investigators on the case. We have a sea of public tips. But the most important fact of all hasn't changed. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. It feels like the puzzle is almost complete, but it leaves us with one critical, unanswered question. What is it going to take to find that final piece and bring her home?